Prophet of God by Chris Cooper, Chapter 11. Fuck! Troy bounced on the dance floor of the large auditorium at the Rec as a red plastic party cup shattered on the floor below him. Strobe lights flickered and all the shouting around melted into plain noise. Sweating, he brushed past other partygoers and stumbled his way towards some red double doors, which fed into a hallway, splitting again into some restrooms. The scuffing of his boots bounced around the pristine men's room of beige and polished marble. Troy stopped and washed his hands and face in the sink. The booming of the music outside the bathroom rattled as Troy began examining his own face in the mirror. Fuck my jaw hurts, man, he lamented to himself, sliding a hand across his face. On his way to the urinals, he spotted another mirror, which sat fixed upon the tall wall, spanning the length of a person and a half. Troy paused and turned his arm to get a good look at his bicep. Yeah. He lifted his chin at the sight of himself, touching the image of a ferocious bull with horns he had tattooed on his upper arm. Suddenly, the bathroom lights died. The fuck? Troy muttered, smacking his lips. He fumbled around his pockets till he retrieved his phone, hit the screen, and flicked on the flashlight application. Sweeping the light across the bathroom, something caught his eye. Instead of seeing his own reflection clearly in the large body mirror up ahead, Troy spotted a very dim yellow outline, and as he approached the mirror and drew his light closer, he could see what appeared to be in the corner of a stairwell inside the mirror. "Well, I'll be damned," Troy said. He felt around the edges of the mirror's frame with his fingers and began forcing it toward himself. Along its brass frame at the top of was the sequence C9, which was engraved. After a pop and a shudder, some hinges swung, letting the mirror give way, revealing a carpeted staircase spiraling down when a rush of air smacked Troy's face. He shot up his nose, sniffing. "Strawberry," he said. The stairs spiraling down and broke into a simple square room. The walls and the ceilings were cream white, with a bright white strip of Corinthian design, making a perimeter as trim. Straight ahead lay a large suede curtain of a rich maroon color, drawn down, all the way to the ivory white carpeted floor. Troy stood in the middle of the unfurnished but pretty room for a moment, listening to his own breathing. Suddenly, only a person's arm and a hand covered in a white sleeve and a glove of the same color zipped out from between the long folds in the middle of the curtain, snatching Troy's wandering eyes. What kind of Willy Wonka shit is this? Troy's words were swallowed up by the space. Afterward, a soft voice emerged from some speakers. "Hosanna in the highest," it rang, in an almost digital-sounding tone. Troy looked around, approaching the dangling hand cautiously. "Hosanna?" he uttered. "Pass?" The electronic voice presented in the form of a question. Troy scratched his head, looking down at the still hand. "Pass what?" he said. You need a cigarette? Pass what?" "Pass?" The call repeated itself. Troy caught his focus on the white glove, and after a few seconds, the fingers on it began to wiggle. "Ah, I see where this is going," Troy smirked, finally drawing closer to the grand curtain. He parted his legs and started fidgeting with the zipper on his pants, looking left to right. "This is a fancy one," Troy laughed. "Nah, I'm just fucking with you. All right," he said before taking a firm grasp of the mysterious glove, pumping vigorously. A thud and muffled grunt followed from the speaker system. The glove retreated back into the folds of the curtain, and the voice once again came on. "Entry accepted." "Huh?" said Troy. Just then the curtain splayed open to reveal a vestibule, glowing in an azure blue, with a massive pair of bronze doors, ornately decorated from top to bottom, straight ahead. At first taken back, Troy waddled inside, and then a great noise shook the room, and one of the doors creeped open just an inch. Someone approached from the right side of the vestibule before Troy could digest the sight of the brilliant entry. The person simply stood at attention, holding up one gloved hand into the air. "Hosanna!" they exclaimed with great enthusiasm. They were wearing what, to Troy, appeared like some kind of culinary outfit. A long tunic, stopping above the knees, and tied together with a silken sash at the belly, all flawless white, save the sash, which was a modest saffron in color. The person wore on their head a cap of some circular shape, again snow white, and they had across their face a slightly transparent white veil drawn from cheekbone to cheekbone. The stranger remained still, as if expecting Troy to move with familiarity, but he didn't. "Troy, correct?" the person asked, their grinning mouth betrayed by the mesh of their thin veil. Troy's cringing face bobbed up and down slightly. "Welcome," the stranger offered a hand. Sup," Troy said. "I'm Brother Ahel, except you might know me better as Jeff." Troy instantly relaxed, clasping Jeff's hand. "Jeffrey, what the hell? I didn't recognize you in your, get-up, bud. What's real, man?" "Yeah," Jeff giggled. "Maybe we'll see you in one of these yourself sometime. Anyway, welcome." Jeff grabbed the side of one of the bronze doors and drug it back. A long hallway was up ahead. Every dozen or so feet, there were pretty glass lanterns fixed on either wall, illuminating the straight, before the mouth of a very tall entryway opened to reveal a gigantic lounge where gentle black marble steps dove down into, spilling out. The floor was a red sea of carpet. In every direction were round tables with a vast array of cushioned benches. The ceiling displayed painted mosaics of Baroque art, and crystal chandeliers dripped down. Chatter and laughter fell off of the heights, bouncing from what appeared to be dozens and dozens of attendees below. Proceeding alongside Jeff, Troy spotted various nooks of activity from groups of others clad in beaming white tunics and dresses, short and long. Curiously, and not least unnoticeable, Troy spotted several ladies twirling to and from or engaged in some fun across the space, having no top, but only pristine white dresses and thin veils over their face. Some corners featured full-blown sunken hot tubs with glowing neon lights all around. The place looked like if a casino and a cathedral had had a baby, and the scent of strawberry perfume and rich pastries drifted through the air. "Holy, what is this place?" Troy turned to Jeff. "This is the sanctum, Troy, the center. It's where our Holy of Holies abides. Most importantly, though." Troy's gaze was captured by waiting staff spinning in every direction with silver plates, absolutely covered in all kinds of toppling mounds of food, servicing the scattered bodies of euphoria and smiling and laughing faces. We're so thankful for the blessings of the Most High. I know it's unreal, Jeff continued, turning to his guest. This is dope as hell, Brother Jeff. Troy brushed Jeff's arm. Is this, you know? Jeff shook his head, smiling, turning as Troy stopped him again in his tracks. You know, the place, what I'm saying? Sunshine on Cloud 9? Troy leaned in, elbowing his tour guide. Jeff halted immediately, whipping his head around. Where did you hear that? Troy chuckled. Wait, ain't that what y'all are like in costume for or whatever? Jeff blinking rapidly, said, You'll just have to make sure you don't mention that to the one I'm taking you to see, all right? Sure, all right. Follow me. This is the way, said Jeff, presenting ahead further still. The two finally approached yet another set of double doors, ascending some steps of black marble, mirroring the opposite side of the grand carpeted court. Troy's stomach began stirring for some reason as Jeff climbed up and then pulled a lever. Damn, it's nuts. This whole thing is down here, Troy murmured. He began to drift his gaze all around, taking note of a particular one of the hot tubs some distance away, which rolled in steaming water, illuminated by an emerald greenish blue LED shell beneath. While the men in the pool were clinking champagne glasses in very thin crop-top mesh jerseys and drawing from mountains of delicacies, most of the women sported bikini tops and some simply fishnets, glowing in black light. Troy's eyebrows broke. Jeff closed the doors behind them and led Troy into a generous office space, past yet another lantern-lit hallway, practically an identical out as was the inn. Up ahead, a glimmering desk of fine wood sat center of the room. Jeff offered a cushioned seat for Troy to wait in this space of warm light and gilded walls, marked by golden cherubim and painted depictions of biblical scenes, the ceiling of which was a brilliantly and meticulously painted celestial-style wheel of the zodiac. Not long before, another man appeared out from behind a passageway off to the side of the room and drew close to the two waiting. He was likewise in a tunic and sash and gloves. He fixed himself in an official posture, hands folded, and floating along the groin. Hosanna, Brother Ahel. The man lifted a palm in the air, and Jeff mirrored him. Hosanna. About which does matter does such wish to inquire? The man asked soberly. Troy looked up at Jeff. The matter is known. Proceed, Jeff affirmed, giving Troy a quick glance. Troy snorted, catching it with a fake sniffle and pulling his arms into a cross. Very well, the man said after glaring at the newcomer. I have to go. Jeff knelt down to Troy, whispering, Bro, what? What am I supposed to do? Jeff stopped on his way out and turned to Troy sitting on the chair. He said, Always pray, brother. Always pray. Jeff gave Troy a pat on the hand before getting up to leave finally. The doors to the stuffy room clicked behind him, and Troy began fidgeting with his fingernails and bouncing his knees. The lights in the room fell into a dim, and Troy jerked his head. I must have drank too fucking much or something, he whispered to himself. There came the sound of a squeaking pair of wheels which crept closer and closer. Around the blind corner of the office, a wheelchair was being pushed in by the same oddly dressed man Troy had seen moments before. All Troy could make out was a disordered blotch of blackness approaching the fancy desk ahead. The contraption had multiple bowed cables shooting from its rear and an IV drip accommodation along with other electronic monitoring equipment and blinking lights of various colors and frequencies. The cool light of the room shone down upon the wooden desk, leaving it in focus at last, while the wheelchair carrying the black mass was secured behind it, leaving the escort to dismiss himself quietly and rather promptly. Troy crashed his knuckles into his eyelids until the figure up ahead became clearer to him. Towering over the desk was the mound of a black hood. A full-faced carnival mask hovered silently inside the hood and was of a matte black finish, with the flows of a cloak of black velvet sheen pouring down, spilling over the top of the surface of the desk. The mask itself appeared to have a broad fracture down the middle of it in a shiny gold leaf, as if to display an ivy vine, and was formed overall to the shape of a generic, expressionless, and genderless human face. Behold! Troy jumped a little in his seat as an electronic voice boomed all over the room, from no particular direction. Praise be to the Most High of God, our beloved prophet. Silence was left, and the cloaked figure simply sat absolutely motionless, with the mask's gaze hung low. Troy cleared his throat, shifting his feet on the carpet a little. The ornate dark mask then slowly began to rise, and as it did, faint circles of blue and red lights, one color on the left and one on the right, could be seen emerging from inside the eye holes of the mask before reaching their totality of brightness, coinciding with the mask's level glare. Be not afraid. A voice, as if seeping from the very floor itself and of a gut-jarring croak and lowness, funneled, as in from all directions and none at once, till finally catching a source from within the mask itself. Troy swallowed. I really should go. Be not afraid, the prophet spoke again. The cloaked head of the figure thawed into motion and shifted its gaze from straight and then laid it upon Troy himself. Troy saw the glint of the gold on the mask as it rotated in his direction to face him. The red and blue eyes gained a steady, animated pulse. Troy froze, clenching his muscles to prepare to leap. You have been through a great deal to be here, Troy. Who are you? Troy stiffened his posture in the chair, clearing his throat. I am that I am, said the prophet, as if gaining a greater flow of speech. Okay, what can I do for you? The prophet drew their face upward. I understand you're a businessman, Mr. Vitale. That depends on who I'm talking to, sir, said Troy. One of the prophet's arms lifted, as a puppet's might from a string, and they touched their mask gently. I wish to make a proposal with you, they bellowed. I'm sorry, look, I'm just a landscaper. I can't help you. Can I go now? The prophet's body erupted suddenly, their shoulders bouncing up and down chaotically. A hissing noise hurled into a chuckle from inside their cloak, like a firecracker inside of a barrel. It seemed and sounded as if there were a disconcerting delay in the noise of the cackle itself and the motion of it. Suddenly, the prophet adjusted position, appearing disjointed, and reached into the inner breast of their cloak, until finally drawing out a black glove and hovering it above the desk. "You are a frank speaker," the prophet confessed, before letting go of the contents of their hand. A hearty handful of tablets spilled all over the glint of the wooden desk, some even tumbling to the floor. "Behold, salvation," proclaimed the prophet, sweeping their hand across the air. Troy clasped his hands together. "That's interesting, but with all due respect, how do I know that's not just some fucking Benadryl or some shit, you know? They don't call me Frosty the Snowman for no reason," Troy laughed. The prophet's head just tilted. "I understand, Troy. The treasures of faith can be a hard thing to grasp. Perhaps a taste is in order then." They folded their arms now more fluidly. The door to the office suddenly flew open, precisely following the prophet's words. "Troy!" A pair of young ladies came bouncing in, each in white gowns and thin mesh veils across their faces, but their voices rang very familiar. It was the sisters. Troy twisted in their direction. "Hosanna, and it's so good to see you," one of them squeaked. "Good to see you too," Troy exclaimed, factually relieved to see that there were definitely human beings around. The sisters knelt at the two arms of Troy's chair, nearly laying their chins on each one of his knees. One of them looked over at the prophet for a moment. "Oh my gosh, it's so wonderful you got to actually meet our prophet. You know, not everyone does, and it's such a blessing to have a real messenger of the Most High alive with us today." "Yeah, I guess." Troy took note of the twinkle of light in each of the ladies' pair of doe eyes. "Those buttered buns just weren't enough for you, huh, Troy?" The other sister winked, giggling to herself. "Somebody needs more faith," she said, turning to her friend. "Well, what do you think of our sanctuary, It's, great. Great. You know, it can get kind of lonely." "Sisters," the prophet finally spoke. All three of them turned to the table ahead. "Yes, Your Holiness," said the sisters in unison. "Let our friend Troy receive the blessing of the Lord, yes? Would you both be so kind as to administer this great sacrament?" The ladies gasped and looked back at Troy, scanning him, nearly licking their lips. "Oh, wow, it would be our honor, Your Holiness," they said emphatically, then bowing their heads toward the prophet. The prophet's escort, dressed in white from before, returned into the room and proceeded to unlock the wheelchair from behind the desk. The lights in the room ascended, and the sisters each clasped one of Troy's hands, raising him from his seat. "So this that sunshine, huh?" Troy joked, starting out of the room with the ladies. He watched as the gleeful expressions on the two faces melted into horror. "Speak again." The wheelchair came to an abrupt stop. The stuff, right? That brings you closer to God or whatever?" "From whom did you hear that term?" said the prophet. "Sunshine, you mean?" "Yes, from whom?" The prophet jerked. "I mean, your runner, I guess. He never told me his name. Some dude who hangs out at Luke's a lot. Bud or Billy or some shit. I honestly don't know his name. Me and my buddies would hit him up when we were low, and he said he was from some church and had some real good stuff he called Sun Essence or something," Troy laughed. So I just started calling it sunshine, he explained. I thought the market was open. He spread it all over the place, so. I see, the prophet said. Ladies, the wheelchair turned back around. Bestow upon our Troy, so wise and worthy, the revelation of the Lord instead. Our pleasure, your holiness. The sisters then bowed their heads.